Hey, this is Ponce on my last day in Vancouver here for a little bit. I'm going to Ithaca for a little while. I'll be there until July. But yeah, just doing a quick video before I have to leave and catch a plane. So I felt like I'd do just a brief Path of Exile thing since, well, I still like this game. So sorry to you guys who are, here on this channel just for the League of Legends stuff, which I normally do, of course. But yeah, I figured what I wanted to do here is just sort of a video on some very simple tips in terms of how to stay alive in hardcore League, especially if you're not too experienced with the game. This should be fairly useful, I think. If you're really experienced with the game, might not be that useful. I don't know, probably some things here and there you might be able to pick up on. This is some of the stuff that I've picked up on, some of it the hard way, because I've lost a few alt characters. None of my main guys have died yet. But yeah, I've lost some guys to negligence and just sort of laziness, and a few unexpected things. So yeah, this is my this is what I've learned on it. So I suppose the first and probably the most important thing is basically just sort of basic game knowledge. I know that sounds very simple, but this is what I mean by it. If you've never played the game especially and don't know what to expect, things that you don't expect are usually what's going to kill you here. It's been referred to as basically a game of knowledge, essentially. For example, very early on, let's just go to the map here. In the third area that you go to, called the Tidal Island, there's a side quest there. And there's this one mob called Hailrake, I think his name was, and he shoots ice balls at you, and he can do this from off screen, and if you don't know he does this, he can basically freeze you, and then you can't do anything, and then you die, and this is so early on, you're only about level 3 at the time, so I mean it's not too bad if he kills you. This actually happened to me, because I hadn't played the game in so long, and I came back to it in the open bay, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy, and like, yeah, I lost my character immediately. So that wasn't too bad, because, it sort of reminded me what this game was like at times, and I played Paranoid ever since then. I should have known that, because basically I knew most of the game, because I played it on a free weekend before the open beta a long time ago, and I went through Act 1 and 2. Act 3 was a complete mystery to me when I did it in hardcore for the first time, so I played that like really scared and paranoid, and ended up working out. But yeah, if you're doing it your first time through playing this game, doing it in softcore might not be a bad idea. I mean, like, maybe you should, it's not a bad idea either to go through the whole thing man mode and hardcore right away. That seems like a lot of fun. But just be prepared to die at some point. Because you'll run into a lot of things you don't expect. For example, the Act 2 boss has the capability of one-shotting you if you don't know what he does and you don't build your character right. So you might want to look up the Act 2 boss if you don't want to lose your character on him. Or you might want to make it a surprise. I think that'd be a lot of fun, too. Certainly a shock to me when I ran into him for the first time. Didn't die to him, but he could have killed me. Another example is certain areas and the mobs, not just like bosses, but certain areas have specific types of mobs in them that you have to kind of be aware of or even spec against. For example, the first time you really run into that, I mean the mudflats can be kind of bad, but the first time that an area I felt was really dangerous was this area here called the Ship's Cave. That's still in Act 1. There's a side quest there. And what's so bad about that area is all the mobs, or a lot of the mobs in there, do an ability called Flicker Strike, which means they can teleport onto you and deal lightning damage. And the reason that is bad is because if you don't expect it and you have no lightning resistance, that does a shit ton of damage to you. It's going to bypass most of your armor, because I think Flicker Strike is part physical, part lightning, but the lightning's not going to get mitigated at all if you have no lightning resist. And on top of that, mobs teleport onto you. So it's not like they walk up to you and you can see the hits coming. It's like 6 can suddenly jump onto you all at once and just like, pretty much kill you immediately. So every time I go into that area, I max out, or at least get very close to max, my lightning resistance. Ideally, you should have high resistance kind of all the time anyway, but I'll get into that in a bit. Another example of a type of area you need to watch out for is the marketplace in Act 3. Because there's mobs that'll run up to you and puncture you, and what puncture does is it puts this animation on you when you start running, and then you start bleeding out. And you can see it, but if you're not paying attention, your character just keeps bleeding out, and it does ridiculous amounts of damage. And I actually lost a character like that because I wasn't paying any attention. I lost him to bleed damage, which was really annoying, and clumsy, which is fine because it was sort of an experimental alt anyway. But yeah, that's kind of what I mean by knowledge of the game. So if it's your first time through, be careful. If you feel like being really keen, you can look this stuff up. But yeah, if you're careful, you can usually see it coming. Another thing I want to talk about is basically how you build your character in terms of surviving hardcore, because obviously you only have one shot at it and then the character's gone. So you need to build him a little bit differently from softcore mode. Let's go into the skill tree for a minute here. Don't mind what I'm doing with this character. This is just sort of a weird experimental build I'm doing. I'm using Whirling Blade, which I think is actually a really bad ability, but I want to just sort of have some fun with it. This isn't my main character. But if you're familiar with the skill tree, you'll notice I went fairly heavily into HP nodes really early. I think I'm only level 50 on this character or something like that, maybe 51. But I've gotten pretty much every single HP node available to me. So when you're making your character, always just kind of, make sure you spend the point on life. Don't skimp on it, because you think, okay, I'm doing more DPS, I can blow through the game faster. It's completely irrelevant and an even bigger waste of time if your character dies, because obviously a dead character, everything you've done is just gone, and the EXP you gained is pointless. So I have all the hit point nodes here coming out of Marauder. I got the extra hit or life nodes here going towards this. I'm working on these life nodes here. I'm working on these life nodes here. I got these life nodes here. I can immediately get these life nodes here as soon as I have the points for it. The only life nodes that I intend to get that I don't have yet are the ones that are down here. So that's like quite a ways away. So it might take me a while to get there. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it. So kind of spec your HP. Specking HP first is probably the most important thing you can do for your character build. Might be a bit slow, but it's better you're slow than dead and wasting all that extra time. Aside from that, in terms of builds, you want just safe builds in addition to HP. For example, if you can afford it, especially, well, not even if you can afford it, but if you have a chance, get these all resistance nodes here, like this one, 15% to all elemental resistances. I definitely get that one. On my other character, I have these basic element resistances, for example, cold, lightning. On this character, I only have fire because I'm being cheap and actually kind of dangerous. I'm not following my own advice, and I'm not getting these extra nodes here. But this is my, like, 6th character or something, so I'm fairly familiar with, the areas and how to keep my character alive. So since I know what elemental damage to expect in certain areas, I can skimp a little bit and then just compensate with having specific resistance gear in my inventory and then switching out. But as I said, that's kind of risky, and it's bad because I'm not taking my own advice here. But you should. Next, let's talk a little bit about currency use, because this is in sort of a weird way also in regards to survivability. Path of Exile, there is no gold if you don't know how the game works. Currency is based on items which do things. You right-click on and they put properties on your items. For the most part, you want to save most of this stuff and use it end-game on like really good gear, because most of the game your gear is going to kind of suck, and then you save these more expensive items like gem cutters, prisms, or chaos orbs, and there's more expensive ones, but basically these items, and you want to use them to improve your really good items. Exalted orbs are an example. I don't actually have any exalted orbs. I've never actually found one because I had bad luck. But yeah, that's not using them is not like a hard rule. At some points you may want to dip into your currency reserves, especially the crappier currency reserves. For example, orbs of alteration, orbs of transmutation. Those are fairly plentiful. And if you feel as though your gear is suddenly lacking and you're having trouble, maybe spend a bit of your currency just to kind of get your gear caught up and making your character feel well, like he can deal with mobs around his level or where he's supposed to be effectively. Because if your gear sucks and you die, I mean, having all this currency in your inventory is kind of worthless. I mean, obviously it'll be there for the next character, but it's sort of frustrating if a character dies due to crappy gear. Especially if you want that build to be your endgame build, and then you have to do the whole thing over again. So, yeah, if you feel like you really need it, use your currency. Don't be too cheap. I mean, I'm really cheap and I rarely use it, but you know, if you need to, dip into it a bit. Next, let's talk about how to avoid dying when it looks like you're about to die. I've been told, I got this, basically all this information I got from Kripparrian. He's a really good Path of Exile streamer right now, and well, he knows a lot more about this game than I do, which begs the question, why are you watching my videos instead of his? But, well, at any rate, my information is accurate, so it's not bad, but or not inaccurate. Anyway, watching one of his things, he was talking about how if you press Alt F4 when you're about to die and it like exits you out of the game, that's not instantaneous. Your character apparently sits there for like just under a second, and in that period of time you can very, very easily die, especially if you're already about to die anyway. Also, zoning, for example, I hit this, go in the next zone. This entire time where you see the loading screen there, your character is actually sitting on the other side, or most of it anyway. So if you try and zone out to get away from something, you can still be killed. What is allegedly the only way to instantly save your character is hit escape and then hit exit to login screen. That is actually false, because I believed you, Kripparrian, and god damn it, that got me killed. That actually got the character killed from puncture. So that maybe that's, you know, interacts strangely with puncture. But yeah, I was about to die to a puncture, and I was kind of trying to get away from some, like I was sitting in front of mobs. So I hit escape, thought it was going to be instantaneous, click exit, and then I went back into thing, and then it said my character is in default league, which means he or she died because it was a witch. So there is no absolute guaranteed way to save your character in this game, apparently. So don't worry about it, Kripparrian. If you ever see this, really appreciate your information. But that one did get me killed. At any rate, yeah, that's all I have to say in terms of sort of basic survivability tips for now. Maybe I can elaborate a bit on what I meant by spec gear. But yeah, I have rings of different elemental types in my inventory, which I can switch out to. But yeah. Oh, and about the exit thing, I mean, if you're going to use this method, I would mash all your pot keys simultaneously. For example, I have a granite flask and a healing. Granite flask makes you really tough. Then I'll hit a healing flask, and then hit escape, and then hit exit. That might save you. But yeah, that's everything for now. I gotta go like finish packing and get ready for this plane. So thanks for watching. If you decide to play Path of Exile in hardcore mode, hopefully this has been useful to you. Or if you already play it, hopefully this has also been useful to you. I'll try to get back to my usual sort of schedule, you know, when possible. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to plane for today. So thanks for watching, and see you all around. This has been Pods from Life in the League /livestream. We live stream every weekday, 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you all around.